Hello my friends, it's time to talk about Ukraine and Crimea in particular, because Crimea is the occupied territory of Ukraine, and recently there were some of the cruise missiles or ballistic missiles spotted not far away from Sudak. Well, there is the location of the Russian munition storage, and you may see that some kabooms were happening there. Judging on this image, the smoke is coming from two of the places. Well, locals are fascinated with what they just saw. Maybe some of the Russian hikers, because Russians are going to Crimea, and still there is kind of the good warm season in September. This place is called Sunny Valley, and definitely there is the small Russian base of the group the Dnieper. The munition storage here is used by this group, but also they have the air defense system, so idea from what I see that Ukraine could clear the way for the drones or missiles to operate in Crimean or Kerch Bridge. Because as you see again, it's not that far away from the Kerch Bridge, and if Ukraine strikes it someday in the future, well, Russia may use the air defense systems here to intercept Ukrainian drones or missiles. Now, I would say in general, Ukraine intensified the strikes on Crimean military infrastructure. Lots of the radars were hit, plus air defense systems recently, mainly using the long-range drones, and I already mentioned it in my video reviews, showing you the real evidence from the drone cameras. Here we go with one more strike on Crimea. You can see this is the communication center of the Russian space communication. Yes, it is called exactly like that, and something happened there, as you may see. Local kaboom of the facility. What was used to hit it? Well, judging on this video, it's hard to say. Again, it is the Russian military base of the occupied village of Vitino, Crimea. Locals report about two of the kabooms. On video we have a single one, but they say that it was the communication center which was hit, and also the Russian command headquarters of this military base. Also, I have the reports that it probably wasn't the standard drone, because the target was moving very fast, so it is either jet drone or missile. Cruise missile. As we know, Ukraine used Pekla missile not long time ago, also high-speed target. And here in this case, it could be the same variant. Actually, Russians here tried to use Panzer 1S air defense system to shut those drones down, but the operation of the system was not successful. And guys, about the military map, we have good news that there were no any updates already published for the third day. It means that Russian army is stuck, or maybe it just accumulates the forces for the major strike against the Ukrainian army in Pokrov's direction. And we had the evidence that probably it might happen like that. So Ukraine still continues the counteroffensive operation, and we have actually also good news from Mayak village. The fight for now is ongoing for this one, and Ukraine prevails. Novotoretsk is also in a gray zone, and Ukraine controls this entire area with the help of the FPV drones and artillery. However, every counteroffensive might bring more losses for Ukraine, and Ukraine should be careful with that. But yeah, at least 3 of the Russian battalions could be encircled in this place. It is pretty much possible. I give it like 50-50 if Ukraine would hurry up with this one, because Russia again might start significant advancement on the front lines even this month. Guys, today I spoke about Poland in 2 of the videos. Yeah, those news are not okay. It's one more escalation of the war, but it is uncomparable to what is happening in Ukraine. Just yesterday, Russia launched a gliding bomb attack on Ukrainian civilians in Yerove village, a small freaking village. There is no any military. Yeah, it's Donetsk Oblast, but those were civilians. There is no any military base out there. This tower here is just for the phone connection. It's not the military antenna. Guys, 20 people lost their lives, 20 in this small village, because they were in a queue to obtain their pensions. Yeah, this van is the mobile pension delivery for pensioners. It just goes from one village to another, giving money for elderly people. That's how Ukraine takes care about its people, yeah, elderly with pensions. Because it could be hard for those people to go somewhere, you know, from this small village to travel. So Ukraine cares about the people, but Russians, they just I don't have words. This enemy, guys, it has no mercy, it has no morale, just pure barbarians, and they deserve punishment, of course. And Putin especially, because he started everything of that, but now he's the guy who's, well, greeted by Donald Trump with the clubs out there in Alaska. So this meet and greet actually encourages Putin to act more against not just Ukraine, but against NATO in general. Today's attack on Poland is showing it vividly. By the way, in Vilnius, there is the situation, a gas train blown up. Several of the carriages or wagons caught fire for unknown reason. Strangely, but this gas was up to go to Poland. Is it a coincidence that it happened the same day with Russian attack on Poland? Could be, or could be not. And by the way, we have the reaction of Donald Trump on the events which happened last night in Poland. What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Here we go. Well, guys, I know some of the English, but I think I require some of the translation. What he really meant here, I looked through X, Twitter, and they also, like users, they do not understand what Trump meant here. It seems like we need a doctor to understand Donald Trump and what he's saying about. Well, it is understandable that United States of America will not protect its allies in Europe. It's like 2 + 2 = 4. Yeah, despite recent visit of Snooze guy, so Polish president to the United States of America, he was well greeted there, but Donny will not protect Poland. Absolutely. Yeah, guys, I understand I speak too much about this Polish drone topic, but it's important. So here I want to point out a couple of the things that are known so far. So this is the Russian Gerbera drone. Russians say that it's not their drones, that NATO accused them for whatever reason, but clearly this drone is made in Russia because Russia launches the same drones towards Ukraine. So what is this plastic bag up front? Well, actually it looks like this. This is the extra fuel tank. So usually Gerbera drones definitely may fly for roughly 700-800 kilometers, and to increase the range, Russia mounted extra fuel tanks instead of the warheads. So it was the first attack where Russia tested capabilities of the air defense of NATO. How many airplanes NATO might deploy to shut down 20 of the Russian drones at least? Whether Poland is going to use the ground-based air defense systems and so on. So this modification with an extra fuel tank really shows that Russia was preparing details of this strike. It was done for purpose to launch those drones to Poland because usually in Ukraine they launch those drones without this feature. Instead, they put some of the TNT in the front. But here again in the nose part, it was this plastic bag full of fuel. And yeah, 4 drones were shut down, but the rest landed themselves because of the fuel starvation. Well, Zelensky said that not just Gerbera drones went to Poland, but also Shahed drones. Shaheds, they have way longer range compared to Gerbera, roughly 2,000 to 2,500 kilometers. They do not require those additional fuel tanks. Also, President Zelensky mentioned that Ukraine will be involved into teaching NATO allies of how to deal with those drones, how to shut down those effectively, because definitely the air defense of NATO, judging on what happened, it sucks, honestly, let's say it openly. Well, the high officials of NATO, like Mark Rutte, say that everything was so fantastic, the best success of all of the successes. Let's, by the way, listen to him.
What we have seen last night was a very successful reaction by NATO and allies, including, of course, Poland itself, but also the Dutch and the Italians and the Germans, everybody involved. And I'm really impressed. So, of course, we always have to make sure that we are one step ahead. But I think last night showed that we are able to defend every inch of NATO territory, including, of course, its airspace. Thank you so much.
So he said, saying thank you so much, and that's it. He hesitated to answer some of the questions from media because those questions could be kind of tricky to the real effectiveness of the air defense and defense of NATO in general. I totally disagree that it was a successful interception of those drones because 4 out of 20, at least, it's really poor result. And yeah, as I said to you, many of the drones were not even spotted, landed somewhere far away deep in Polish territory. And luckily, most of the drones were, after all, Gerberas, so where Russia put extra fuel tanks instead of warheads. So now we have more details about this case, but still it doesn't mean that it was not the attack of Russia in Poland. Clearly, it was an attack. But Polish side plus NATO, they continue to say about provocation. Okay, it will be just on their responsibility for the future escalation. The Dutch Royal Air Force used this missile to intercept the drone AIM-120C7. Well, it is really a great missile. I was hoping that Ukraine will get those, but unfortunately not. The range of it is 120 kilometers. But what's about the price of those missiles? In 2014, it was reported that Turkey obtained those missiles, 145 of the units, for $320 million, which makes the unit cost $2.2 million. So each missile cost $2.2 million. And do you know the price of the Russian Gerbera drone? Well, you may put Gerbera drone price and you may see $10,000. So you may calculate how many times less is the price of the drone compared to the missile which was used to hit it. And not all of the drones were shut down, yeah? So maybe that's why Ukraine was called for cooperation. I would say it was done quite late. This cooperation should have been started a long time ago. And just imagine how many of the Gerbera drones Russians could produce for this price. They may exhaust really the air defense capabilities of NATO or some separate country as Poland. So the most effective actually way to shut down those Gerbera drones is to use FPV because they're more efficient and less pricey. You simply would not have enough $2.2 million worth missiles to shut down all of the drones that Russia potentially could launch to the Polish airspace, and not just Polish. And I expect those attacks to intensify because of the weak reaction again from NATO, from Poland. It's very sad to see that reaction, guys. Well, nevertheless, Ukraine could help with that. And this is the picture already by the time I'm recording the video. Russia launches some of the drones and ballistic missiles on Ukraine. Against ballistics, Ukraine may use just PAC-3 Patriot missiles, which are also damn expensive, but there is no other way, ballistics only could be shut down with that. About the drones, definitely Ukraine has different approaches, which are also very effective. Judging on statements from many of the Russian officials, they really want to escalate also against Finland. Yes, they're testing the new NATO members. So MFA of Russia, the Foreign Ministry of Russia, tweeted that stuff, basically a repost from Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of Russian Security Council, where he writes that Finnish establishment must not forget confrontation with Russia can lead to collapse of Finnish statehood, this time forever. Unlike in 1944, no one will go soft on them this time. Yeah, you might just say drunk Medvedev as usual, but he is the speaker of official Russia and he says something that Putin cannot say himself openly. So he is the barking dog of the Russian regime. It means that Russia really thinks like that. One more, the head of the State Duma Defense Committee, Andrei Kartapolov, who is also a military official of the Russian army, said that Finland is becoming a breeding ground for fascism faster than Ukraine. According to him, Russia is ready to protect its interests, and if the policy of the Finnish authorities leads to the tragic consequences, it will be on their conscience. So you see how they threaten everyone around, especially neighboring NATO countries. Guys, I honestly expect all of this war situation to escalate. And we know that Russia is building its military bases in a very close proximity to Finland. And we have the information that there are some of the military bases built in Belarus. This one is not far away from Gomel. Also, Belarus is expanding its military airfields. For example, this is the airfield of Luninets. You may see how many of the new parking spots are out there. Before it wasn't even close to that. Munition storage in Pavlivka 2023 and it is 2025. State-of-art brand new built facility. Losvido military base, which was built recently and it is already functioning base. This one is used for the rocket forces. And all of that is happening in Belarus with the Russian military support. Russia sends its munition there. Yes, Russia is now stuck in Ukraine, definitely, but they may announce a new mobilization, and that resolves lots of the Russian army problems. And honestly, guys, saying Europe is not prepared for the full-scale war which is now ongoing in Ukraine. Ukraine was partially prepared because the war was in Donbass since 2014, so there were some of the trenches, some of the defense lines, and Europe just started to build those. So Putin has that certain time window, and it's not very long. I would say that during the next 4 years, Europe could rearm and definitely defend itself. But now it's going to be very, very hard for Europe. And we know that Donald Trump's administration will not help Europe. It is already understandable. Putin understands that as well, so I guess he will escalate this war to NATO. I'm almost sure about it. The only question is when and where. The most logical scenario for Russia's escalation is Suwalki corridor after all, because it cuts 3 of the countries of NATO immediately from any sort of the supplies. Whether it could happen just right now during the military drills in Belarus, I don't think so, but there could be some of the provocations that might lead to some of the escalation, but I don't think full scale this year, maybe the next one. And guys, please check out my channel, Denis Davidov. It's the one you're watching me on, so subscribe and like, because there I film regularly. For today, I filmed already a couple of the videos about the strike of Russia on Poland. And what is gonna be next? Well, my narrative is the same, weak reaction of NATO. And also, guys, thank you for your kind support on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description right below. You're just motivating me to film more and more of the videos. Thank you so much for your kind support, my friends, and I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.